Live from the award-winning stations of KFMB, you're watching the CW San Diego. The 10 o'clock news starts right now.
Tense moments today as two brush fires flare up in San Diego County. One burning dangerously close to homes, the other scorching hundreds of acres. Welcome to the 10 o'clock news. I'm Marcella Lee.
And I'm Jesse Pagan. Both of these broke out around 2 p.m. Chopper 8 was over the canyon fire in Mira Mesa. You can see flames and thick smoke crawling towards homes. Crews were able to get a handle on it, and we'll have that full story coming up. But first, let's talk about the Mesa fire burning near Pala Casino.
This one popped up off State Route 76 about a mile west of Pala Temecula Road in Pala Mesa and has since burned about 350 acres. News 8's LaMonica Peters has been tracking this fire. She joins us now with an update on evacuation warnings in the area. And LaMonica, what can you tell us tonight?
Well, the evacuation warnings have been lifted, but the crews continue to work to contain the fire. The temporary evacuation points have been closed, but Highway 76 has been reopened. Now, earlier today, there was a much different scene here.
First units at scene arrived, and they noticed the fire was potentially 20 to 30 acres with a dangerous rate of spread moving upslope. About
2:30 Wednesday afternoon, CAL FIRE says they were notified about a vegetation fire in Pala Mesa, and they immediately noticed how fast the fire was growing. Captain Lococo says firefighters made good progress throughout the day using water, air tankers, bulldozers, and fire engines to douse the flames. With a few hot spots remaining, he says crews will continue working overnight to increase containment and ensure that the fire can no longer spread.
I'd like to see, or I'd like to think that we're going to get some containment throughout the night and maybe in the morning, but we definitely have several days of work based on the steep terrain and the size of the fire. We have a lot of work to still do.
Lococo says, though there's no threat to homes in Pala Mesa, now is a good time for people throughout San Diego County to make sure they're prepared for a potential wildfire and or evacuation.
Just because we have cooler temperatures and some precipitation doesn't necessarily mean the risk of fire is gone. As you can see today, we had rain throughout the county in certain areas. We have higher humidities, but we still have a relatively large fire that burned.
People are still being asked to drive cautiously when they enter this area, but all is clear. Now, if you want more information on fire readiness, you can just go to our website at cbs8.com.
Monica, on top of that fire, thank you. Meantime, firefighters in Mira Mesa took control of a small brush fire that briefly threatened homes this afternoon.
Fire crews responded to this one around 2:30. It was called the Canyon Fire on Capcado Road. It broke out near Black Mountain and Mercy Roads. Flames spread to around 2 acres before firefighters knocked down most of the flames. But you can see from this Chopper 8 video right there just how close the flames got to homes, at one point threatening homes on Polaris Drive and creating some tense moments for those who live there.
Every 2 minutes there's one. I think they've got two running at this point, so that's a really good feeling to see that happening. The street was all black at some point and now it's just white.
Firefighters got this fire under control just around 4 o'clock. No injuries or damage to any buildings were reported. And fortunately for those crews, it was not as dry today as it has been. We even saw a rare treat, so to speak, in June. Some rain overnight and a little this morning as well.
Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis here now with a first look at your microclimate forecast, and that little bit of rain kind of taking some people off the kilter here.
Yeah, that's what happens when we get those upward lows that start to move in. But as the firefighter had mentioned, we're still talking about really dry brush out there. So even though we did have a little bit of rain in the forecast for today, we still have a lot of dry brush, plenty of fuel out there, and we still need to be on guard. But for today, we did have some showers. Over the last 24 hours, we saw more than 1/10 of an inch for Lemon Grove. That's the same for San Ysidro, as well as 100ths of an inch for downtown, and also for La Mesa at 600ths of an inch. And talking about these modest totals, it was still a record day. We actually tied the record in downtown at the airport, and that was at 100th of an inch. Previous record was on 1972 on this day, and then also broke the record for Chula Vista at 400ths of an inch. So as we go into the forecast for tonight, the rain is done. So we just have the cloud cover that's out there and it's going to lift towards the northeast as we continue to have this area of low pressure exiting out. But we did have a chance for showers. That was all before our sunset, and now when you're losing the heating of the day, that area of low pressure moving out, things start to calm down a little bit more. So by tomorrow, we're talking more of a typical June gloom day, as we do have the clouds moving in right along the coast, lots of sunshine inland, and still below seasonal with those temperatures. More details coming up in your complete forecast. Marcella?
After less than a year and a half in the top spot, the chief of the U.S. Border Patrol has been ousted by the Biden administration. Rodney Scott, who once oversaw the San Diego sector, was appointed by President Trump to lead the Border Patrol and was a strong supporter of his immigration policies. Tonight, News 8's Richard Allen takes a look at the timing of Scott's removal as a local man shares his uncomfortable interactions with Scott. Richard?
Well, that's right. Rodney Scott began his career with Border Patrol at the Imperial Beach Station back in 1992, eventually becoming the head of the San Diego sector before being appointed to head the entire agency in February of last year.
So there was effectively no border in San Diego. It was a chaotic situation.
This is Rodney Scott in 2018, appearing at the border with President Donald Trump. Scott has been an ardent supporter of Trump's border policies, especially his plans for constructing a wall.
The job of the United States Border Patrol is to make sure that nobody comes into our home, into this nation, without coming through the front door.
Scott is now being forced out of his role as Border Patrol chief after repeated clashes with the Biden administration, including Scott's refusal to follow a directive to stop referring to undocumented immigrants as illegal aliens.
I think it was just a matter of time before he would be asked to leave his position.
Human rights advocate Pedro Rios is in charge of the American Friends Service Committee's U.S.-Mexico border program.
My hope is that President Biden is committed to changing the agency.
In a tweet, Rios recalled a disturbing incident in which Scott, while working in the San Diego sector, accused Rios of lacking integrity for publishing photos showing his agents teaching children to shoot at migrant cutouts, and then later balked at having to appear with Rios at a church conference.
He felt that a person of whose integrity he questioned should not be in the same spiritual place where he was at. You know, look, it's not my agents that are involved in incidents where loss of life happens, where questionable actions take place.
Scott's removal from the top post comes as Vice President Kamala Harris prepares to visit the U.S.-Mexico border in El Paso, Texas on Friday. Rios suggests the Biden administration did not want to risk the potentially awkward optics of placing Harris together with such a strong supporter of Trump's policies.
To either skip the meeting or be there with her and unkind words being exchanged, whatever the case might be.
And Deputy Chief Raul Ortiz will take over for the time being. On social media today, Scott thanked his supporters and promised a smooth transition in the coming weeks.
All right, Richard, thank you. The recall election against Governor Gavin Newsom was formally initiated today, according to California's Secretary of State. Shirley Weber confirmed more than 1.7 million verified signatures, meeting the threshold to start a recall. Now the state will have to decide whether it will hold a special election or wait for the next scheduled election. A decision could come down by early September. A Coronado High School alum who claims he was the one who brought the tortillas to the now infamous basketball game says it was not an act of racism.
But coaches and parents around the county say given the push for racial justice, these kinds of acts can't be ignored. You've probably seen the video by now that shows some Coronado players throwing tortillas at fans and players from Orange Glen, a predominantly Latino high school in Escondido.
Tonight, News 8's Abby Alford hears from coaches and parents who say this happens too often and they are standing up against hate.
We're now into day 4 of this tortilla toss controversy, and since then the school board has met. They fired the basketball coach, and tonight we hear from the man who admits that he brought the tortillas and how coaches around the county are hoping to heal. Video of Coronado High players throwing tortillas at Orange Glen High School, a predominantly Hispanic school, after the CIF championship basketball game Saturday night.
What the heck?
The man who brought 4 bags of tortillas is Coronado class of '99 alum Luke Cerna. In a text, he referred us to a Coronado Times article for his version of what happened. He says he's half Mexican, went to school with a former basketball coach. He says it was not racially motivated, but a UC Santa Barbara tradition to throw tortillas after a victory, which, by the way, has since stopped. The 40-year-old adds the outcry from people outside of Coronado are racial opportunists. College coach Travis Nichols isn't buying it.
Come on. That's not being truthful.
Nichols is part of Coaches for Racial Equality San Diego, who met Wednesday night in their bi-weekly meeting to discuss how to get ahead of this.
We don't want to forget. We want to learn from this and move forward.
The group formed last year after George Floyd's death, working to educate and integrate coaches, players, parents, and fans into a vision for racial reconciliation.
At the beginning, a lot of people were saying that, racial stuff doesn't happen in San Diego County. And since then, we've had 2 or 3 instances.
Last month, the governing board San Diego City Conference suspended Cathedral Catholic High School's football coach for 2 games and put the team on a 2-year probation, as well as implementing a restorative education program after a player shared photos of a T-shirt, Catholic versus Convicts, before a game against Lincoln High, a predominantly Black and Hispanic school. Coaches say a similar equity program is needed for all coaches.
Maybe that, it becomes a curriculum among coaches.
Coaches say it's a small step that will make a big difference to end hate.
I just want the conversation to happen. I want us to continue because we're not going to stop.
The Coronado School Board says that the investigation could take at least 3 weeks. It will involve the Coronado Police Department, the Escondido Union High School District, and the CIF.
Abby, thank you. Coming up, a sizable earthquake rattles Los Angeles.
And we get a first look at a brand new trolley station designed to honor U.S. service members.
But first, the family of a security guard shot and killed while on duty pleads for help finding his killer. For years, fans have been calling on the courts to free Britney as rumors swirled about the nature of her conservatorship. Today, the pop star addressed the situation directly and made it clear she wants her life back. Britney Spears urged a Los Angeles judge to remove her father from the conservatorship that has controlled her finances and day-to-day life for the past 13 years. Outside of the courtroom, dozens of her supporters held signs and chanted familiar slogans. The Free Britney crowd has been present at a number of these hearings. Meanwhile, inside the courtroom, the judge listened as Spears testified by phone for nearly 30 minutes, calling the arrangement abusive, saying she's depressed and traumatized by what happened. Tonight, Danya Backus breaks down her powerful testimony.
Britney Spears urged a Los Angeles judge to put an end to the conservatorship that has controlled her life for the past 13 years. The pop star testified by phone, saying the arrangement is doing more harm than good and that she deserves to have a life. She called the conservatorship abusive while condemning her father and others who've controlled it. Spears' father, Jamie, has been his daughter's conservator, managing her $60 million fortune and almost every other aspect of her day-to-day life since Britney went through an apparent mental crisis in 2008. The 39-year-old pop star also told the court she wants to marry her boyfriend and have another child, but is forced to use birth control against her will. The New York Times has found court documents that show Britney Spears has been quietly trying to undo the conservatorship since 2014.
I would have thought that the conservatorship would have been brief, maybe 1 or 2 years. I don't understand why it's gone on so long.
Free Britney! About 100 Spears fans gathered for hours outside the courthouse to support the singer.
With all this public pressure, and believe me, public pressure works on high-profile cases. I've seen it numerous of times. Praying to God it works here.
Jamie Spears' attorney told the court her client says he is sorry to see his daughter suffering and in so much pain, and that he loves and misses her very much. Danya Backus, Los Angeles.